All right. Hello, 14ers, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to Ministry Revealed. It is February 13th, 2021. I've got an exciting one for you guys today. You guys know I've been wanting to do this video for a while now. Well, today we're going to get into it. But before I jump into that, I know I get people asking, why do I call people 14ers? All right. And for those that don't know, I'm sure many of you have figured it out by now that are newer. I do it because there was the revelation we received here that the end of days, this ministry has been revealed, is the opening of the books for the end of days. And the second revelation, that I received was that the truth was 14 years. It was two sets of 7 years for seals and 7 years for trumpets. Having been taught with a foundation of Matthew all of our lives, we've missed half of the revelation, half of the end of days. And so I'd been calling people that for probably close to 3 years, somewhere around 3 years now. But what I didn't know, somebody had emailed me maybe 6 months or a year after I'd been doing it and showed me this Latin word that there was a group of original early Christians that were called by this name. And Latin or Greek, yeah, Latin, there it is. And what this name means is those who observe this practice being and who were called by this name, it was Latin for, oops, it was Latin for 14thers. Okay, this group of 14ers, these original 14ers, which I had no idea when I was calling people 14ers, they were being accused, they were being condemned, they were being persecuted because they refused to go along with what the church was saying. They were sticking to the 14th day of Nisan for Passover. They refused to go with what the church was saying, and they took a lot of persecution for it. And I thought, man, isn't that beautiful? Here we are. I'm calling people 14ers, and I'm doing it because of a revelation that hadn't been understood to this point. And I am just following what the scriptures are saying, and I'm sharing it. I'm letting the Spirit just take it forward. And people start seeing it for themselves. Bereans go in and they start looking. And I said, man, we're not just going by what the church says. We love a lot of the churches and what they're doing, of course, but we're not just taking everybody's word for it, because we've realized this revelation of 14 years, who the gospels are speaking to. Those are two keys, the two most important keys in this ministry. And I just thought, man, it was so wild. And then, several months later, maybe even close to a year later, I was shared that there's a group in America. I think people travel from around the world, but for sure within America, there's 96 mountain peaks in America that people climb on purpose, and it's because all the mountain peaks are over 14,000 feet. So they call themselves the 14ers. Man, I was like, this is amazing. How could this not, guys? For those that have been around for a while, I know you know this, but since the new people haven't spoken about it in a while, it's just amazing to find out that it was a group sticking to the truth of scripture, sticking to what the apostles had told them, and another group being called 14ers that climbs mountains, right? To climb to the mountain peak with the Lord, right? Just amazing stuff. So for those that hadn't heard that in a while, I wanted to share that with you. This video, you guys had heard me talking about it for probably the last, probably almost 2 months now. And I was considering doing this video as a study note series video. But I realized that the study notes are more the introduction type. Like when we go to our playlist here, this is the one I share all the time, of course, to get everybody to come and listen to these videos. In particular, number 1 and number 2. Okay, these are the two main intro videos. These are the keys to unlocking the end time understanding. This third video will reveal to you how on earth the first video and the second video's understandings could have been missed over all these generations. The answer is because everybody has been taught from Matthew. So the reason we can do those as introduction videos is because to try to put them all in one video, to try to explain and to put the entire thing of who the Gospels are speaking to and all of the revelations and all of the understanding that's opened up within the synoptic Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke to who they're speaking to in the end of days and how and when. It would have been hours of videos. So it can use a good introduction. And because we use them to reveal the patterns in the understandings in other open books from Genesis to Revelation. See, but this video today, the one about the 7 churches, which is today's topic, we don't have to do that. We don't go to this, to the 7 churches in Revelation and use it as a foundation to prove out this or to prove out that, as we do with who the Gospels are speaking to in the 14 years. And so after pondering it a little bit more, I realized, you know what? We're just going to do a full video dedicated just to this revelation of who the 7 churches or when the 7 churches times are during the end of days. Okay. So guys, today's teaching is a big deal. It's a revelation of hidden understanding never before understood until recently, when we shared it here in a video back in November. All right. When it was first shared. All right. Hello. When it was first shared, it was, oh shoot, which video was it? Oh, here, I think I have it here. It was a video back in November. No, I don't remember it offhand. Oh, sorry. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Give me a second. Okay. It was shared in this video. And it was shared with many other things. All right. So I've wanted since then to do one on just the 7 churches. All right. And it's a big deal, like I said, because it's a mystery that just hadn't been revealed. You know, we'd look at those 7 churches for generations trying to understand their application in the end of days. All right. And I recently heard also that Chuck Missler said that he believed that there was going to be an end time application of the 7 churches, but that it wasn't yet understood, meaning he never understood it, nor had he heard an explanation that did. And I know I used to try myself to try to understand it, and it was always confusing. I remember even like 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, and going into it and trying to see. I mean, we could see glimpses and pieces here and there, but it was always just on the edge. All right. It just wasn't coming clear. All that's going to change today. You're going to see it much better than even we did back then a few months ago. You guys are going to see it like never before. Revealed for the end of days. You know, the website that I use as well, for the image that I use, you see this one here. I always have it up. I always have it ready to share. Even this website, check this out. This website, where is it? The question, because this website, you find out that they don't believe that the churches, let me see where it is. The number represents 7 churches. While we do not favor this view. Okay, so what are they talking about here? What view don't they favor? Okay, so here's a great website that I use for this all the time to reveal church history. Well, I say all the time in recent history, to show how church history was, is, and is to come. But the website discussing it that has the information that revealed it, that just made me go, there it is. They don't even believe that it's true. How awesome is that, right? It's so incredible. Well, today, guys, that mystery, that great mystery of Revelation is going to be revealed clearly here, as it's never been before. And you know, it's going to be like we did with so many other things here in this ministry, like pre, mid, and post, or the Lord returning feet down. The Lord returning first on heavenly Mount Zion. I mean, there's been so many awesome revelations, guys. Big deal revelations. And I put this into one of those categories. You know, and if you want to see more that fit into this category, come and watch the 4th video in the playlist called Why the Summary. There's been many things since that video that have also been revealed here in this ministry, but you'll see so many more things that have been revealed. See, from the Gospels, who they're speaking to in the end times, the 14 years, pre, mid, post, the Lord coming after 13 and fulfilling the 14th, Daniel chapter 9, the Lord coming on Mount Zion at the end of seals to begin trumpets. I mean, I was freaking out when I did that video. When I realized what it was, you guys see that video, it's got a big exclamation mark, like a yield sign, and it says the most important end time video ever. I mean, I was freaking out when I did that video because I couldn't believe that it was revealed that the Lord is coming on Mount Zion at the end of seals to start trumpets, and that he's the one on Mount Zion with the 144,000. You know, do you ever wonder, have you ever wondered why in Revelation chapter 14 the lamb is on Mount Zion with the 144,000? You see, there's a reason, and that revelation revealed it. Well, that's what today's video is kind of like, you know, and like this one was in the last one. These are big deal things being revealed. All right, so you're going to understand this, man, like I keep saying, like never before, like the Gospels, like the 14 years. It's crazy exciting. Okay, this is the stuff that if Perry Stone would listen, right, I got his number to call him, or at least his church's connection. Who knows if I can get through, right? We've tried emails, never hear anything back. But anyways, side note, you know, this is something that they've been seeking to understand for a long time, and we're going to have it all put together here today more clearly than it's ever been understood before. All right, I've pointed to it, like I said, a few times. Well, today I'm going to show the connection to all these scriptures. It's so much fun. Let's start by going into Revelation chapter 1, verse 19 and 20. This is almost like a little side note as we get going here. All right, it says, write the things which thou hast seen, and the things which are, and the things which shall be hereafter, the mystery of the 7 stars which thou sawest in my right hand are the 7 golden candlesticks. The 7 stars, are the 7 angels of the 7 churches, and the 7 candlesticks which thou sawest are the 7 churches. That's pretty wild. I'm going to show you something. Okay? The 7 candlesticks are the 7 churches. We know this is Passover, unleavened bread, first fruits, Pentecost, trumpets, atonement, and tabernacles. Okay? Let me ask you something. Now, when I'm showing you this, I'm not showing you this is all the order for each and every church. I'm just going to show you something that correlates so perfectly. You see, because like I was saying a moment ago, you see, the things which thou hast seen, past tense, the things which are, present tense, and the things that shall be hereafter, future tense. Because why? The 7 churches, even though the company that did this, the website people that did this, even though they don't realize that the churches relate to a was, is, and an is to come. Now, they don't believe it in church history that for the last 2,000 years, this is the part they don't believe, because they say, well, all churches are here at all times, always. All right. Nobody's really disputing that, I don't think, but obviously for them to say it, there must be some people that are disputing it. Now, I agree that all of these churches are still here. Of course. They were, even though they were destroyed and then they scattered, right? They've gone throughout the earth. And there's the way to look at it presently in the world. So there's when he wrote to the churches. There's the churches that are still here that are represented by periods of time over history. This here, I don't know, they just made a mistake. It's just in the wrong side, that's all. So they're represented throughout history to present day, where we would say we're in Laodicea. But would that mean that, like the church says, oh, we're in the time of Laodicea? You see, we're in the time of the falling away church. Well, yes, we are. Of course we are. We definitely are. But does that mean that they can't all be about to replay again in the end of days? No, that's exactly what's going to happen. That's precisely what's going to happen. Just like it's telling us here, those which you had seen, that are, and that are to come. And it's the mystery of the seven churches, which are the seven angels to the seven candlesticks, the seven churches, and of course the seven churches, which are the seven candlesticks. Now let me ask you this, check this out. This is, like I said, this part here is a little side note. If 1, 2, 3, 4 were fulfilled, okay, again, this is type and shadow. Like I said, we know that all of these are about to play out again, and that's going to be the foundation. I mean, that's going to be the bulk of today's video. But in a big overview of things for the seven candles, if 1, 2, 3, 4 are fulfilled, and it's the fifth one that comes next to be fulfilled, what if we looked, it's so awesome. What if we looked at the seven churches in order? Ephesus, Smyrna, Pergamum, Thyatira, Sardis. So 1, 2, 3, fourth candlestick, fifth candlestick is Sardis. Do you know what Sardis represents, brothers and sisters, in the end of days understanding? You'll see it more when we get there. This is when the Lord has returned at the end of the sixth seal to begin the time of trumpets. This is the end of the sixth seal. Who do we see coming at the end of the sixth seal? Hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the time of his wrath is come. Right? This is the Lord now coming on what? That's right. That amazing video I said I did a long time ago that just blew me away. I was afraid to do it because I couldn't believe what it was saying. When he's coming on the mountain carved without hand. When he's coming to destroy this time of the Antichrist. All right? At the end of seals. So when he comes at the end of seals, and it's related directly in the understanding of the end of days to Sardis, is it not fitting that Sardis is the fifth church being mentioned? Meaning what? The Lord is going to come and establish himself on Mount Zion when he brings them all in. When do you think this is going to be? It's trumpets, isn't it? It's trumpets. It's trumpets. Do you realize what Mark says? Oh, we're going to get to this again later, but I'm just going, man, because this is so much fun. Let me show you something from Mark 13 in Mark's discourse, right? Watch this. There's a reason, when you go to the one in Luke, you don't have any of this. When you go to the one in Matthew, it's spoken of differently than the one in Luke, than the one in Mark. So much so differently that you're gonna understand it right here. In Mark 13:32, but of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. When you go read it in Matthew, you don't have that, and you don't have neither the Son. Watch this. In Matthew it says, but of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, but my Father only. What? Where's the Son? It's him speaking it, but he doesn't say, not even the Son of Man. Where did he go? That's another video, brothers and sisters. It's another video. It's another awesome little piece of revelation there. But you see, what do we end up seeing here? We're talking Sardis. Mark's time is the end of seals. And here they're saying that, where is it? There we go. Neither the Son, but the Father. Isn't that amazing? Because what is trumpets about? Trumpets is that day and hour that no one knows, right? It's a 2-day event. They're not sure if they're going to see the crescent of the moon on the first day or the second day. If they don't see it by the second day, then they call trumpets the second day, the Feast of Trumpets. You see? And when you follow it in order, it's Sardis. And Sardis is what? The representation of Israel's king. You'll see this more as we get into it. It's just so fantastic. All right, let's keep going. Let's go look here into Ephesus. Okay, Ephesus, the church of Ephesus, the 7 golden candlesticks. In verse 2, I know thy works and thy labor and thy patience, and how thou canst not bear them which are evil. And thou hast tried them which say they are apostles and are not, and have found them to be liars. Why does Ephesus, out of all of them, say that all of these others that you've gone to test that are liars, calling themselves apostles? Why is it only mentioned in Ephesus? Do you know why? Because the age of Ephesus in the end of days is the time of the apostolic church. Do you remember what we've been teaching here for so long? Acts 2.0 is going to play out again. You see, this is why I was saying when you look at the menorah, it was just a little snippet I was adding. We're not saying that it's going to begin again here, or start here. This is like Passover, right? This is where it's all going to begin. There's going to be an escape time frame. There's going to be the Son of Man coming, right, at the time of first fruits, and the 40 days to Pentecost are going to play out again in a modern type and shadow, but not where everybody's going to see the Son of Man and know who he is and so forth. That will come more at trumpets, at the end of seals, at trumpet feast, okay? But what we're talking about now is looking at that menorah strictly as the 7 churches now, all right? And how they're going to play their role in the end of days. So in history, when did the apostolic age begin? At the 50th of Pentecost, right? Jesus told them from Luke 24, which we've covered this so often, right? Because of what? The revelation of who the Gospels are speaking to. In fact, even in the pre, mid, post of the last video, we covered a lot of this. This is why I was saying the study note series in the smaller video context is important because there's so much, but also because it's the foundation that reveals all of these other teachings. Okay? We have the resurrection. The escape of the bride is here. The Son of Man is here for 40 days. He's with his apostles and some disciples, and he tells them to tarry until you be endued with power from on high, and that, of course, is until Pentecost. What is this apostolic age that's coming in the end of days? It's just, let me show you another example. It's just like we showed from Genesis. You have the 40 days, we know the Son of Man, right? We've got that video, the 40 days of the Son of Man. Here's when the 40 days come to an end. The Antichrist spirit raven goes out, the dove goes out at the 50th. And then what begins? 7 and 7. And this first 7 begins after 50, and it's the beginning of travailing and sorrow. Okay? This is going to replay in the end of days. This is what we call, and many people have been calling, this is a great ministry. I like these guys too. I don't watch all of their videos, but this is a good one too. White Dove Ministries. Look at what their last video was called. The Atmosphere, or Atmosphere for Revival. Do you know how many ministries out there right now are just talking about this new apostolic age that's coming? This is that apostolic age we've been talking about. People say, oh, it's already started. No, no, no. White Dove Ministries can understand it. They say it's this atmosphere. You know, I say it's kind of like the pre of it is what's building right now. Okay? Not the apostolic age, not the apostolic revival. Hasn't really begun yet. When is it going to begin? At what we famously call Acts 2.0. And when is that going to begin? Pentecost 2021. It will then be the beginning of the 14 years. Okay? None of these churches have a representation, if you will, of the bride of what we're talking about. We're talking about the 14 years. All right? When you look at the descriptions of the churches, does it mean that, oh, we weren't a part of any of them? No, I would say we were part of all of them. The bride and those who are being taken are going to be, yes, the Gentile portion, but there's also some Jews mixed in there. All right, there's some Messianic believers that are in there as well. Okay, so it's a portion from all of these. That's the one we say, you know, the 10,000 times 10,000. Those are the ones standing before the Lord, and you got the thousands of thousands serving him. All right, they're already there. Okay, they're a portion of the overcomers and so forth. But what we're speaking about is directly related to the 14 years. And it begins, the 14 years will begin with this group of what? Apostles. These true apostles are going to weed out those who've been claiming themselves to be apostles. Okay, are going to find them out to be liars as they go around as the true revealed chosen ones of the Lord. Okay, it's amazing stuff. This is something interesting too. You come to Revelation 2 verse 5. Remember therefore from whence thou art fallen, and repent and do the first works, or else I will come unto thee quickly and will remove thy candlestick out of its place, except thou repent. Got to remember, there's a representation of a group of people in this time, but it doesn't mean that there's the rest of that portion of that church there as well. Okay, that's what this is revealing to us. A representation of a group of people during these periods of time at the end of days. And so when you see something like this is a question that's been asked of me a few times over the last about a year and a half. And that is in relation to those who will be apostles, you know, chosen by the Lord, or will be disciples, you know, those working for the Lord during this time of seals that's about to begin. It strikes me that they weren't as prepared, if you will, as the bride was. You know what I'm getting at? Some people wonder, you know, in this ministry, that are some of us maybe going to stay and work? I still tend to sometimes think maybe some will. Maybe some have heard directly from the Lord and some will. But as I read certain scriptures, you know, whether it's in Luke 24 or from Acts chapter 1, this connection to the 40 days, or when I read something like this, it strikes me as if those who will be chosen weren't fully aware of the season and time. All right? So I tend to say maybe we're not going to be chosen, those who are aware and watching, right? That what we're going to receive is our reward for diligently seeking him. Okay? But I'm not saying there won't maybe be. I'm just saying things like this and other places where I've read it tend to make me lean to the side that we probably wouldn't, right? Those who are aware and watching and repent, you know, the reward is coming. Okay? And then we see in Revelation chapter 2, verse 7, he that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the tree of life, which is in the midst of paradise. Now, why is that interesting? how does that apply to the beginning of all of this? You see, check this out. When we go to Luke 24, this is only spoken of in Luke 24. Okay, come together. So no, I always prefer it when I go to Trusted eSword. There's different ways that I've got my highlights. It just it makes all the difference for me. So in Luke 24, we see that when Jesus is here during the 40 days, only in Luke, we talked about this recently as well, only in Luke. So who's he talking to here? Like I said, Luke 24 is the 40 days of the Son of Man. And when the 40 days are over, they're told to wait. They wait those 10 days, and then boom, the Holy Ghost comes upon those apostles. All right. It's Luke 24 into Luke 1, into Acts chapter 1, into chapter 2. Okay. It's this group that he's speaking to. And what did he do with this group? And it came in Luke 24, verse 30, and it came to pass as he sat at meat with them, he took bread, blessed it, and gave to them. This is the only group Jesus sits down with and serves and eats with. In in Mark and in Matthew, he does not sit to eat with them or serve them. In Mark, they were already eating. In Matthew, there is no dinner here where he comes to them. Okay, so I find it very interesting that one of the other clues is that to him that overcometh will I give to eat. And then he goes on to say, of the tree of life which is in the midst of paradise. Well, of course it's got to be paradise, right? Because this group of workers are working during seals. So you've got these guys that are chosen, and then they get the blessing of the Holy Ghost, and they're working during the time of seals. So when the Lord returns on heavenly Mount Zion with paradise, where do you think they're going? That's right. They're going to go where he is. They're going to paradise. They're going to be with the Lord in paradise where he is going to serve them. It's perfect, guys. Every single time. The apostle group, the workers that are sealed to do their work first, are the first group in the end of days. Next, we have Smyrna. All right. Smyrna is when persecution starts. And persecution is going to get bad. We all know, we talk about this, as the beheadings and so forth. This isn't, I don't even know that I'd say this is quite at the beheadings. Maybe there'll be some, but this is when people are starting to flee. All right. This is when it really starts to pick up. Well, when we go read about Smyrna, listen to what we see with Smyrna. This is to the church of Smyrna. I know thy works and tribulation. Well, of course, they're going through the tribulation and poverty. Well, they're fleeing. Everything's being taken away from them. And by the way, you realize it's not even the time of the Antichrist yet. Oh, the spirit of Antichrist will have been here as the raven. But the Antichrist doesn't really get his power until about mid-seals. This is devastation from war and people saying, oh, it was the Lord. You see, because what's going on? You had the time of revival with Ephesus. There's a bunch of people in all of this chaos and World War III breaking out. And people proclaiming Jesus Christ. And persecution just going through the roof against them. Going through tribulation. And now they're in great poverty. You see? And we see here, only in two scriptures, only in two of the churches, do we see and I know the blasphemy of them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan. You see, this Smyrna group isn't just a group that's being persecuted. This group is also still going to be here when Antichrist time shows up. You see, Smyrna, we're told that they what? They're the ones, see right here. Fear none of those things which thou shalt suffer. Behold, the devil shall cast some of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days. No, that's not a type and shadow of 10 years. I believe it's a type and shadow of 10 days. All right? It's literally 10 days that you won't suffer this persecution in prison for that long. Well, what does that mean? Well, you'll be in prison for 10 days until you're put to death. Yikes. You see, those willing to put their necks on the line for the Lord. This is that group of Smyrna. Let me show you some pieces of scripture from Smyrna. We see it in Luke chapter 21, right here. In Luke chapter 21. So we know that this group is a group when persecution is starting very early, and we see it in Luke 21 because Luke 21, not only does it cover just the 40 days, but it goes on beyond that as well. All right? We know because it says, and them which be in Judea and to flee, for these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled. So this is 40 days relating. And then it says, woe to them with our child. They shall fall by the edge of the sword, led into captivity, until the time of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Well, the time of the Gentiles won't be fulfilled until the end of seals. Okay? So here's that some of you. I want to show it again. I'm going to keep it with going here with eSword. Sorry. With eSword here in most cases, again, because of the certain types of highlights. Because when you see in Smyrna here, it says, and some of you, right, shall you be cast into prison, have tribulation, and so forth, right? Well, this some of you is the same thing we see in Luke chapter 21. In Luke 21, as it talks about this persecution that's coming, it says, and some of you shall be caused to be put to death. Okay, this is all in that early portion, that first portion of seals that's taken place. We can prove this out more by going into Daniel chapter 11. Check this out in Daniel chapter 11. Okay, what you have to remember is that group from Luke is working the Mark portion, which is seals. Okay, seals is the left behind church, and those who are going to work that portion of seals are a group from that Luke portion, okay, that are helping give understanding and are the apostles and the disciples working during Mark's portion. And when we come here in Luke, in Daniel chapter 11, we see this wording used again. Okay, let's keep going. Against the Holy Covenant. And some of them of understanding shall fall to try them and to purge them and to make them white even unto the time of the end. Okay, so again, some of them. It's the same type and shadow, some of you. And you always get it that it's italicized. Okay, let's go. Where is it again? Let's see what else it says. Okay, and cast into prison, and some of you cast into prison, that you may be tried 10 days. Be thou faithful unto death, and I'll give you the crown of life. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. He that overcometh shall not be hurt by the second death. So again, who is this group Smyrna? They're the ones when the persecution of the church is beginning. Okay, they're starting to wander around the earth because these are the ones that are part of the great revival. Persecution is beginning. Who is this group when we look at the chart? This is the group that in fact, actually, this is the group that when we go look into the book of Revelation and we go to the 6th seal, we see at the 5th seal, see those that have been killed for the testimony, for the word of God and the testimony which they held. Okay? This is that group. Still, that doesn't mean it ends here. This is what this group here is talking about. They don't believe that just because it's this period of time and this period of time and this period of time that, oh, that church is over and gone. No, all of these churches are still here now, and they will still be present in their portion of time of understanding in the end of days. Okay, there will still be a portion of each of these churches, but their specific role is beginning at this portion, and it will carry through another portion, and that portion will end and another portion will continue. We've talked about this type of thing with second Baruch. You know, same like the judgments with seals and trumpets. When the seals come out, the 4 seals will probably be relatively close to the same time. Not exactly the same time, but pretty close to the same time. And while one is going, or let's say, for example, while the second one is going, the third one starts and the fourth one starts. But it doesn't mean that the second one is ended. The third one might end while the second one's still going and the fourth one starts. Okay? It's the same thing with the understanding of these churches. They just have a specific period where you can see them clearly revealing the end of days in their times. So who else is this group that we're talking about with Smyrna? Smyrna puts their necks on the lines, right? Well, when we go to Revelation chapter 20, we see here who some of these guys are. And I saw the judgment given unto them, and I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Jesus Christ and for the word of God. That's the same group over there, right, that I just showed you in chapter 6. And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image, neither received his mark on their forehead or in their hands, and they lived and reigned with Christ 1,000 years. But the rest of the dead lived not again until the 1,000 years were finished. This is the first resurrection. Who gets to be part of this first resurrection? Smyrna. Those who were beheaded, those who were killed for their faith and for their witness of the Lord, their belief in the word. Okay. What is this? There's the beginning of seals. There's, about a third or so of the way in, but it doesn't mean the apostolic church has stopped. It doesn't mean that as soon as Pergamum starts that these guys are done. No, you see, these guys were wandering. So you've got a type and shadow in church history telling us about the events of the original churches. You see, the history in Israel. Then you've got the modern churches. And then you're going to have the end time churches. It's so beautiful. It's so incredible. So now what? Let's go look at Pergamum. Well, what period of time would Pergamum be? Check this out. Pergamum, to the angel of the church of Pergamum, I know I know thy works and where thou dwellest, even where Satan's seat is. And thou holdest fast the name, my name, and hath not denied my faith, even though in those days wherein Antipas was my faithful martyr. Why do you think it's talking about martyrs now? For the exact same reason Ephesus was talking about apostles is the exact same reason that Pergamos mentions martyrs. Because what's going to happen during this time? What was it in church history? Constantine. Right? What was it in greater history? It was when they were wandering in the wilderness. Right? Was, is to come. What was the time of Constantine? Constantine would have been a type of Antichrist, right? What happens at the time of Antichrist? At about that time of mid-seals. That's when they must what? Flee into the wilderness. Here they were wandering and hiding out and doing things, but what's going to happen in the end of days now, when the persecution and being martyrs really kicks into gear? It's Mark. Remember, we're in the portion of Mark. Luke is to the bride of Christ. She's gone even before the 14 years begins. But then, of course, there's worker group of the apostles and disciples from Luke's group, right? Now, again, were they fully ready, or does the Lord choose them right afterwards? That's up for debate. But Luke is to the bride. And the group that's chosen from there is going to help these guys during Mark's time. And Mark's time is the sleeping church. They're going through seals. That's what we're talking about, this portion of seals. So now at that time, the type and shadow of Constantine as an Antichrist, what do you think happens at the midpoint in Mark? Okay, here we see nation against nation. There's the famines and the troubles and the sorrows and being delivered up and for the word of God. Okay, brother shall betray brother unto death, father and son. You see, people will tell us, oh, that Elijah comes first, right? That John type, that Elijah comes first. No, he doesn't. He can't. He's coming to restore the fathers to the sons, the mothers to their daughters. This is when they're turning on each other. Why do they suddenly want to turn on each other? Because the persecution of believing in Christ. You see, look at what happens now. Here we are at about mid-Mark, mid-tribulation of Mark in his discourse. And what do we see? But when you shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let them flee into the mountains. What's the understanding here? Standing where it ought not. Okay? Which you can also say is to place where it ought not. This is the time of the mark of the beast, the worshiping and so forth. This is that time when Antichrist will receive his power to continue 42 months. When is that period? About mid-seals. Okay, this is when the Antichrist gets his power to continue. Isn't that interesting? That it just so happens it's the time of Pergamum and Constantine. Who is Antichrist related to? Satan. Right? He's a type of Satan. He's empowered by Satan, who gives him his power and his authority and so forth. And what's going to happen at that point? The church is going to flee into the wilderness. They're going to flee into the wilderness. And then what's happening after Pergamum? All right? What's happening after Pergamum? In fact, let's continue still, in Pergamos. It ends in Revelation chapter 2, verse 17. To him that overcometh will I give to eat of the hidden manna, and I will give him a white stone and a new name and so forth. So what is he going to do? He's going to give them of the hidden manna, and he's going to give them a white stone. Hello? What is going to happen when they're hiding out in the wilderness? Right? What's going to happen when they're hiding out in the wilderness? The Lord's going to provide for them with manna from heaven. Remember, what was shall be. In fact, let's go to Daniel again on this, because Daniel 11 is going to prove these things out even more. Remember where we showed the some of them of understanding shall fall and be purged to what? To make them white. So here's where we were talking of some of them. That's that group in early portion of seals. And some of them are going to be tried and purged, and they're going to do it to make them white. Over and over and over. It's all in order, guys. It's all in order. They're going to be fleeing into the wilderness because it'll be the time of the mark of the beast. And what is the Lord going to do in the wilderness? He's going to provide them with the manna. He's going to feed them. And those that are still dying and connected to this time, they are being purged and made white. I didn't write these things. They're there in order. They're there in order. Check this out. Look at Thyatira. Okay, we'll skip down to Thyatira. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation. Well, let's go look at the story again. If this is the beginning, early stages of the end of days, remember, there's war going on here. During this apostolic revival, there's war. World War III is going to begin. There will have been tens of millions of people who have vanished. America will partly be decimated. Israel will be decimated. And this is going on. And then there'll be persecution. Will start with the Christians. And it'll get worse. And then because they know this time to flee, they'll understand this time of the mark of the beast. Antichrist will have taken his power after these wars have settled, and he takes that power. This is when they're going to realize, man, we've now got to flee. They got to go hiding in the wilderness. I always use the example of that movie, a true story, based on a true story, the Daniel Craig movie called Defiance. Go see what it was like during World War II when the Jews were fleeing into the wilderness and living in the wilderness for years. That's what's coming to the church, but not regionally, globally. Okay? This Thyatira, Dark Ages, what's happening? They're still living in the wilderness. It's the second half of seals. You know, or the time from when Antichrist got his power, that Constantine portion, Pergamus time, and then you've got the Dark Ages. There's this Dark Ages time, the martyrs underneath under the altar. It's a terrible time during the Dark Ages. And listen to what it says. Let's go back here into Thyatira. And I will cast her into great tribulation. Do you know this is really interesting? This is probably a mystery that many of you guys have had, including myself. Why do you think this says into great tribulation? Like those here in Thyatira who haven't repented, who haven't woken up to what's going on, haven't accepted the Lord. If they don't get out of this bed, you know, they're probably maybe going along with the beast system. Man, maybe not worshiping, not receiving the mark of the beast, but maybe they're still able to live life. Okay? That they're going along with some of these things. Well, they need to wake up before what? Great tribulation. You know one of the mysteries of what this great tribulation is in seals? It's the sixth seal. You want to say, how do I know that? How on earth? What do you mean it's the sixth seal? What do you mean great tribulation equals the sixth seal? Look at where it is. Thyatira. We know when Antichrist gets his power to continue, this is going to be a terrible time when people will flee into the wilderness. But after this fleeing and once it goes on, it's going to be a very dark time. But God will protect those during this wilderness period. But if you're not protected because you haven't woken up, well, what do you think it's saying? You're going to go into great tribulation. Let me show you something. Let's go to let's go to Revelation chapter 6. Watch this. Okay? We were showing this a moment ago. We see the fifth seal, right? The souls of those. So there's a whole bunch that are still dying. But then they're saying, you know, when are you going to avenge us? When are you going to avenge us? They're given white robes. Okay, those who are under the altar are given white robes. That means the dead in Christ, right? That group that's going to be revived at the end first to live for the millennial reign. But he says, rest a little season until thy fellow servants and thy brethren should be killed as you were is fulfilled. So what do you think's going on here now? What season is this? What season of the churches is this being spoken about? Thyatira. Thyatira. So for those who don't wake up, behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that committed adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. What is this great tribulation? Let's follow this forward. If it's not the sixth seal, when there's great earthquake and great shaking of the heavens, if it wasn't the case, check this out. In Revelation chapter 7, after the 144,000 are sealed and the rapture of the great multitude comes in, listen to what it says about them. And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation and have washed, right? They had to wash it by going through the tribulation, their robes, and made them white. What is the great tribulation? That great portion of the tribulation is the sixth seal. That is the reference of great tribulation. And the revelation, what has proved it for us? The understanding given to us in Thyatira. See how awesome this is? Do you see how the foundation that I talk about in this playlist, the foundation of understanding who the Gospels are speaking to, and the 14 years reveal the revelation, reveal the understanding. This is awesome stuff. I didn't put this together. These nuggets of these little phrases are what reveal the understanding, and it was put together by people that don't even believe it's true. It's awesome. Okay, now we come to Sardis. Well, guess what? If this was the time of the sixth seal represented by Thyatira, then when do you think Sardis is? You see, just like Constantine and Rome was wicked, you see Rome trying to take control and trying to claim churchianity. This is the evidence. This is the proof of church history to church future coming of the seven churches, that the Roman Catholic Church is the enemy. Do I mean everybody within it is an enemy? No, I don't. There are true believers in the Catholic Church. But are they true and ready, the majority of them? Or even a small percentage? It would probably be really small. No baptism. You know, they think they could have it at birth and they're covered. You know, there's so much, and it's the deception from the church, just like the 14ers in the beginning. It all came from the Catholic Church. Do you want to know what history proves to us with the Reformation? It was the freeing of control that the Catholic Church had so that people can have their own Bibles. In the beginning, to get their own Bibles, to bring about this Reformation, to bring about this change, to bring it to the world. You see, not just listen to Latin that you don't know and think they're saying some special prayers over you. This was the enemy, is the enemy. The Reformation was the truth. Again, I didn't write this. Does it mean the Reformation had everything right? No. But it was the freeing, the opening, the revealing of the church. Listen to what it means. Sardis, as this type and shadow from history, reveals what future? The period of Israel's kings. Hello. What happens at the end of seals? The Lord returns on heavenly Mount Zion. Who is Jesus? Who did he come for? Israel. He never came for Judah. Remember that? He never came for Judah. He came for the lost sheep. And of course, we know the Gentiles got grafted in. So when you come to this age right here, from the end of this to the start of Sardis, it is the end of seals here now at Sardis, and the time of Israel's king, Jesus having come on heavenly Mount Zion. Let me show you. Watch this. Remember how we said paradise, right? How is it that they're going to he's gonna feed them and do that in paradise, right? This is the first group above 14 years ago that goes to the third heaven. This is the bride. And then you have such a man, when they're caught up to paradise, that's because the Lord has come down on heavenly Mount Zion, the mountain carved without hand. Watch this. Let's keep going. Let me show you that other place. Was it Mark 13, Revelation 13? Let me get my bearings where I was with this. Okay, with Israel's kings. Now check this out. In relation to Israel's kings, man, I got so many notes. Okay, let's go to this. Watch this. When we go to Revelation chapter 14, look at what we see. Revelation chapter 14, and I looked, and lo, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him the 144,000, and their father's name written in their foreheads. What is the lamb doing on Mount Zion? You see, this lamb standing on Mount Zion is the exact same story that we read with Nebuchadnezzar's dream, when he's told about the dream, and it says, where is it? And they shall say, Canaan in broken pieces. When the rock that is where are you? Here it is. In Daniel 2:35, and the feet and the toes of iron and clay, okay, the chaff of the threshing floor, and the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth. You see, this is the same thing in Daniel chapter 7, given to us differently, when the Ancient of Days did come, and the Lamb, the Son of Man, comes to him in the clouds. It's all the same thing. It's Revelation chapter 14, the Lamb standing there on heavenly Mount Zion. It's Zechariah chapter 8. You see, we've talked about this many times in the open books. 14 chapters, they represent 14 years. And what happens at the beginning of chapter 8? Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I was jealous for Zion with great jealousy. I was jealous for her with a great fury. That's what we read in chapter 1, when it said he is jealous. Now he's no longer, he was jealous. Why? Thus saith the Lord, I am returned unto Zion, and will dwell in the midst of Jerusalem, and Jerusalem shall be called a city of truth, and the mountain of the Lord of hosts, the holy mountain. And then what's going to happen? Let your hands be strong, you that are here in these days, and the foundation was laid. For before this time there was affliction, I said, every man against his neighbor. There was nobody to build. Why? Because it was the time of seals. The land had to be vacated for 7 years. That's why we see the Lord on Mount Zion at the end of seals to the start of trumpets, following this story of the churches, the period of Israel's kings. Because why? This is when the Lord will now be on heavenly Mount Zion, covering the earth. They will start to rebuild the city and the streets. Okay, end of seals to the very start of trumpets. Jesus as Israel's king. But now watch this. We have Philadelphia. Church of Philadelphia. What do we know about the Church of Philadelphia? Okay. Oh, in fact, if you continue with Thyatira, let me end it with this with Thyatira. Thyatira says, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron. Verse 28 says, and I will give him the morning star. Who's ruling with the rod of iron when he comes? The Son of Man? Isn't that exactly what we get in Revelation chapter 12? Let's go to Revelation chapter 12. And what do we see in verse 5? And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and to his throne. This is the rapture group. Who do we see coming at the end of the sixth seal? Him who's to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. And then in chapter 7, during the 7th year of rest, there's the rapture. Again, all revealing the exact same timing. The rod of iron is what the Lord's ruling with, and the morning star is him. All of those things. Daniel 2, the mountain carved without hand. Daniel 7, when the Ancient of Days comes and the Son of Man is brought to him, it comes to him in a cloud. All of these places are speaking about the end of the sixth seal. The sixth seal is the great tribulation they were thrown into. Those who will be a part of it if they have not turned from their wicked ways. It's beautiful stuff. Watch this. Let's go into Revelation chapter 3. Okay. This is where we were. We were talking about Sardis already. Okay. So that was my fault because I already jumped it into Sardis. Okay. Let's see now what Sardis is going to tell us. Sardis chapter 3 verse 3. We know Sardis is relating to when the Lord has come. Let's get a little bit more info on Sardis. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come on thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. Okay? Where do we see this type of wording? Mark 13. Okay? Mark chapter 13. The end story that we get here in Mark is different than what we get in Matthew. And in Mark 13, at the end of his discourse, starting in verse 32, actually we covered it, neither the Son, right? The Son doesn't know either. That time of nobody knows the day or hour. Remember we said Sardis is connected to the end of Mark. Sardis is connected to Feast of Trumpets as the fifth one, as the fifth church. And here's what he's saying about him not knowing when he's coming at trumpets, at the end of seals, or at the end of the sixth seal. Take heed, watch, and pray, for ye know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Watch ye therefore, for ye know not when. As I command all, I say unto all, watch. Matthew does not say the same thing. It's similar in one place, but that's it. What's the revelation? The Lord having come at the end of the sixth seal. Sardis, chapter 3, verse 4. They shall walk with me in white, for they are worthy. He that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment. And I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I will confess his name before my Father and before his angels. Wow, there's a whole bunch in there. Didn't we just talk about white, being dressed in white? Revelation chapter 7, right? After the sixth seal, we see those who are clothed in white and those with palms in their hands. Remember, more had to die as they did at the fifth seal, right? That short period of time for a short season. And here they are clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. And then we're given the explanation. Who are these with white robes and where did they come? Don't you know, sir, these are those that came out of great tribulation. We've got this group of being clothed in white. All right. What else do we see? It says, I will not blot their book out of the name of life, but I will confess it before my Father and his angels. Check this out. When we go to Mark chapter 8, we have this story before you get to chapter 9, which was in the last video we did, pre, mid, and post. We know that it's related to the end of seals when the Lord comes on Mount Zion. And in Luke, he says it differently than Mark and differently than Matthew. So from Luke, it says, and they'll see the kingdom of God. And it says he's coming in his glory, his Father's glory, and in the angels. In Mark, listen to what it says. When he cometh in the glory of his Father with the angels. Nothing, there's nothing about him. Okay, when he comes in the glory of his Father and of his angels. Look at what Luke says. When he shall come in his own glory and in his Father's and of the holy angels. So right at that time when the Lord's coming at the end of the sixth seal, he says when he comes in his Father's and with the angels. You following? It's amazing. See? Before my Father and before his angels. This is why it's connected to Sardis. The Lord has returned on heavenly Mount Zion. He's bringing people to the top of the mountain. And look at what else. I'll give you another piece. And I will not blot his name out of the book of life. You know what's interesting about that? You see, when he comes at the end of seals and he's establishing himself on heavenly Mount Zion, do you know whose time begins? Michael shall stand up. Watch this. Revelation chapter 12. Look at what we see next. Okay, you got the rapture group and you have this woman that flees into the wilderness for 1260 days. What do you think's happening during that 1260 days? Michael and his angels are in a battle against Satan and his angels. They're in heaven, I believe in the space heaven, and this battle is going to last 3.5 years, 1260 days. Okay, how do we know this? I'm going to show you in Daniel, but we know here that when he's cast down to the earth, we know that he goes after them. And when he goes after Judah and Jerusalem, we see that they flee away for 3.5 years, time and times and half a time. Well, the difference from here to here is 1260 days. It's 3.5 years. So this battle with Michael must be 3.5 years. But remember, there's a reason I'm showing you this, because Michael's standing up. Okay? Because it just told us that, and I will not blot his name out of the book of life. Only Sardis has this reference with the book of life. And the timing being referenced is Daniel 12, when it says, and at that time shall Michael stand up, the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people, the children of thy people. This is Israel. This is the rapture group. He's standing up for them. This is when they're going to come in. And he says, and there shall be a time of trouble. See, what's going to begin next? Jacob's trouble. Trumpets. Such as was not since there was a nation unto this time. And at that time, thy people shall be delivered, every one that shall be found written in the book. Okay? It's all connected, all connected, all connected. Now check this out. What about Philadelphia? You see, Sardis is the end of seals, the king of Israel, Jesus coming down. It's the time of Reformation. But now we get to Philadelphia. Philadelphia is the missionaries. All right, it's the missionary movement. You know, I remember also, I spoke to you guys about this a while back. There's one of the pastors, what is it? DTBM, I guess it is. I don't know if I have that right. John, is it Connors or something like that? And he gave a talk on this as well. That's where, for me, the seven churches really started to begin to make sense. And part of it was when he showed Smyrna in church history like this. He showed Smyrna as the persecuted, and then he showed Philadelphia as the missionaries. All right, this is when the time when the missionaries were sent out. You know, approximately this time frame. Some people will have different historical time frames, you know, maybe even up to 1950. This is represented by Philadelphia. All right, so we knew in the 14 years that the persecution came first. So everybody that's telling us, hey, the 144,000 are going to be sealed. Okay, it's the 144,000 in the rapture of the church. No, it's not. They are going out to help trumpets. Do you follow? Who is Philadelphia? It's given to us in Revelation chapter 7. Right? So you've got the seals are over, the 6 seals are over. You have the 144,000 being sealed, and then you've got the rapture of the great multitude. Who are the representation of the 144,000, or the church of Philadelphia, those who represent Philadelphia as the 144,000? Who are they in relation to the Gospels? They're the end of Mark. Did you see how Luke, right, the bride's gone, you got the 40 and then to the 50 going into Acts, and it's that group that's going to work seals? Well, now here we are, seals have come to an end. You've got the 144,000 set to work trumpets, which is for Jacob's trouble time. Okay, for Judah. So at the end of Mark, you're going to have a group that works for Matthew's time, which is the 7 years of Jacob's trouble in trumpets. And who are they? They're right here. They're right here. Listen to what it says. Mark 16, verse 15. And he said unto them, go ye into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. Well, that's pretty interesting, because in Luke, it said go out and preach to the whole world, but it said starting at Jerusalem. These guys aren't given that same command. Just go out into the whole world and start preaching. We see that they're given powers, that they can cast out demons, that they can take up serpents, and if they're taking any deadly drink, any poisonous drink, they'll live. Okay, they'll lay their hands on this, all of these special things that they could do that none of the other groups can do. Well, why do you think they're going to be able to take up serpents and any deadly thing? Because at mid trumpets, Satan is released and these guys are still working. They're going to need that additional power to be able to make it through and to work and to do what they have to do during trumpets. It follows the same story. Do you see that? Group goes, group stays to help this group. Rapture group's gone, a group stays to help this group. When Matthew's group is done, when trumpets are over, there is a group from here, but they're not going anywhere. There's no going to heaven or any of that stuff anymore. Theirs is the millennial reign. So the group from Matthew, from the end of Matthew 28, they're going to stay to work the millennial reign. They're not going to have to preach anymore because Jesus will be here and the whole world will know it. That's why it says they're just going to teach, but no longer preach. Okay? This is the representation of the 144,000. And you know what's interesting at this 144,000? Let me show you something. At the 144,000, you see what it says here in relation to Bible history of it? The period of Israel's removal. You're like, well, wait a second. I thought the removal was over here, right? The persecution and, you know, all this other stuff. What's this relating to here? The period of Israel's removal. You follow it? It could be two things. You could say, oh, it's when the rapture comes in, but really it's leading us to something else. Because this removal, see, these guys are going to go out and they're going to preach. They're going to be that group at the end of Mark that are going to work during Matthew. And for 3.5 years, they're going to be casting out demons and doing all those types of things. But at the end of 3.5 years, after the end of Israel's king, the period of Israel's king, he's going to be removed. He's going to be removed. So what do we have? You've got 7 years of seals. You got him being king for 3.5 years, the first half of trumpets. What's taking place during the first half of trumpets? The Lord is here. He's on heavenly Mount Zion, like I showed you. But then there's going to be a period after their 3.5 years of missionary work during the first half of trumpets. When what? When it comes to an end, it'll be the removal of Israel. It'll be the removal of Israel's king. We've been able to prove this in many, many places. You see, if we go into Zechariah, like I was showing you earlier, there's Zechariah 8, right? The beginning of trumpets, the Lord's on heavenly Mount Zion. We went to Revelation chapter 14. There's the Lamb on heavenly Mount Zion. Well, if you go 3.5 years later into Zechariah chapter 11, you see that the vintage of old has been cast down. Okay, that's Satan having lost his battle now against Michael. They've been cast down. It's the 5th trumpet time. And what does Jesus tell us? He's going to what? Break the covenant that he made. Because he's going to make a covenant at the end of seals, beginning of trumpets. You see, and he says, and I took my staff, even beauty, and cut it asunder, that I might break my covenant which I had made with all the people. And in that day it was broken. You see, who is this representation that gives the 30 pieces of silver? We did a video on this, right? Just like Judas, who got paid the 30 pieces of silver. The reason why the Gospel of Matthew is the only one that mentions the 30 pieces of silver. The other two just say money. This representation of it being here in Zechariah chapter 11 is the exact same reason it relates to the 10.5-year mark or mid-trumpets when Messiah will be cut off. Let me explain to you guys something. What is the reference of the name of the person who was paid 30 pieces of silver? We know his name was Judas, but what was he? He was the son of perdition, wasn't he? Was he not the son of perdition? You see, this is what's going to happen. And when Messiah cuts himself off and he breaks that covenant that he made at the beginning with all people at the end of seals, beginning of trumpets, he's got to cut it off because Satan is cast down. See, the time of the end of Israel's period removal. because the son of perdition has come. And look at what happens. For lo, I will raise up a shepherd in the land, which shall not visit those that be cut off. Listen to this, Zechariah 11:16. But he shall eat the flesh of the fat and tear their claws in pieces. Yikes. That's because this is when the pit is opened, when the son of perdition is raised up. How about, let me prove it to you in another place. Daniel chapter 9. For those that have been asking, I will be doing an intro, yes, a study note video, intro one of Daniel chapter 9, because it's again one that we go into regularly to point timings of these events out to. Check this out. Okay, from the going forth of commandment shall be 7 weeks. These are weeks of years. This is the end time understanding of Daniel chapter 9. Okay, when I do that study note video, you will understand it crystal clear. Yes, it was a reference. Remember, when it was written was, is, which is when it came into Christ being there, right? That all the historians know and have put together. This here in this ministry reveals the is to come, the understanding of the end of days. This 7 weeks is 7 years. This 62 is the 3.5. That's what? 10.5 years. What did I just say that Zechariah was in chapter 11? That period of about 10.5 years. What's the exact same time? 7 years of seals, the Lord on Zion, 3.5 years of rebuilding the city and the streets until Satan's cast down and is cut off, breaks that covenant that he had made with all people and breaks it in half, breaks it in one day right here. Because who has come? Satan has come down. He had lost his battle he was having against Michael in the second heaven for the last 3.5 years of trumpets. The first 3.5 years, sorry, of trumpets. And when he's cast down, what happens? The pit's going to be opened. Who is going to come out of that pit? Here it goes again. Here it goes again. Okay, 7 in Daniel 9, 7 years, 3.5 years, and then what? Why do you think it says Messiah is going to be cut off? Okay, 10.5 years in, Messiah was here for 3.5, then he's cut off. For what? Because of the prince, the people of the prince that shall come that are going to destroy the city and so forth. And look what happens in the final year. They're going to do that for 2.5 years. In the final year, the Lord returns and is going to confirm the covenant that he had made earlier at the beginning of trumpets. But watch this. Let's prove it out a bit more. Because when we go into Revelation chapter 17, you're going to see this exact same theme. Remember, we're talking about this period of what? Israel's removal. So these guys have been gone out preaching for 3.5 years of trumpets. At the end of 3.5 years of trumpets, it's Israel's removal. These guys are going to be given power, though, to keep going. They're going to go to the end. But this is the 3.5 years before the cutoff comes. Watch this. Remember what we said was the whole theme, brothers and sisters, is was, is, and is to come. Okay, the churches were, the churches are, and it is to come. It's the exact same revelation about the beast. Okay, the mystery of the woman and the beast that carries her. The angel tells John, I will give you the understanding of it. And in Revelation 17, verse 8, he gives him the revelation of the beast. The beast that thou sawest was, what do you think that means? That second half of seals, when the Antichrist got his power to continue for 42 months, that is the was. And then we read, and is not. Why? Because in this portion that we're talking about right here, the first half of trumpets, when the Lord is here as Israel's king, he is not. He was defeated when the Lord came. So he was, he is not during the first half of trumpets, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit. When is the bottomless pit opened? That's right, at the fifth trumpet. So at the fifth trumpet, when the pit is opened, who's going to come out of that pit outside of all the demons and everything else? The son of perdition. The son of perdition. That's why in Daniel 7 we see that the beast is destroyed. Okay, he was, and he was destroyed, and now he is not during the first half of trumpets. But when Satan loses and is cast down, the bottomless pit is going to be opened, and the son of perdition, he will now rise up. What period of time is this? Mid trumpets. What was it in Zechariah? Same time frame, the 11th chapter, 10 and a half years in. That's why it said 30 pieces of silver. The son of perdition. Judas. Matthew, what? Chapter 26 or 27. Same thing, 30 pieces of silver. This is it right here. That's the cutting off because of the son of perdition rising up. Let me show you another place. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Everybody knows this one. They think everything applies to now. It doesn't. They all have their portions of time. Listen to this. 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and 4. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come, except there be a falling away first, and and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. When did I just show you the son of perdition shows up? At mid trumpets, when the pit is opened. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. How is he to sit in the temple, brothers and sisters? How is he to sit in the temple without the temple being built during seals? That's because it's going to be built during the first 3.5 years of trumpets, just like we read in Daniel. Just like we read in Zechariah chapter 8, the beginning of trumpets saying, let your hands be strong, because they're rebuilding the city and the streets and the temple. So when he rises up, what time do you think this is also? It's going to relate to Matthew, right? In Matthew chapter 24, we'll come back to 2 Thessalonians. In Matthew chapter 24, this same time of the cutting off, listen to what it says for the abomination of desolation. We've got a video that proves the reason for marks is because of the mark of the beast, and it's in Daniel chapter 11. But the abomination of desolation in Matthew 24 is the abomination of desolation spoken in Daniel 12. You see, this is mid-trumpets. The abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel, stand in the holy place. That's not what Mark said. Mark was standing where it ought not. And what happens at this point? They're to flee again. Of course they're to flee again. That's why Revelation chapter 12:14 said they're now going to flee in the wilderness for the last 3.5 years from the pit. See, they're going to stay gone into the wilderness protected till it's all over, but we showed that the Lord is returning with 1 more year to go. Satan's time in the pit open and all of them is going to last 2.5 years. But then the Lord will return after 2.5 years and will fulfill that final year. All of it is connected, brothers and sisters. All of this is the removal of Israel's king and of those there. It is the cutting off of Messiah. All in order, brothers and sisters. This is the revelation of the end time churches from the book of Revelations, chapter 2 and chapter 3. Let's read a little bit more to see what else he has to say. Okay? For the church of Philadelphia. Open a door, nobody can shut. Shut and nobody can open. I know them which are the synagogue of Satan. People will say, oh, right here in verse 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I will also keep thee from the hour of temptation. People for some reason think it's either the rapture or something like that. It's not. The word keep thee from the hour of temptation is he's going to be watching over them. He's going to be keeping an eye on them when you go look at the definition of the word. Okay? Let nobody take their crown. I will make you a pillar in the temple. We've explained this before as well. This is why it's so awesome. You want to see where we are in this? Go to Revelation chapter 21. Okay? You see holy New Jerusalem coming down from heaven. Listen to the description of it. Okay? You see that it had 12 foundations. They're the names of the 12 apostles. See those guys that work seals? They're the foundation layers. And then what do you have? Then you have the measurements of the wall. Those who are working during trumpets, and it's the 144. See, built on the foundations. So the foundations come first in seals, so that you can build the wall of the 144,000 workers are being built on the foundations placed in seals, are now being built in trumpets time while the city and the streets and the temples being built. And then who's the last group? It had 12 gates. The 12 gates are the 12 angels, which are thereupon the 12 tribes of Israel. That's what you read. And the 12 tribes, the tribes mourned in Matthew 24 when they saw the Lord coming. And it's the 12 tribes, those leaders within the 12 tribes that will go out and teach during the millennium, as I was showing you earlier. Okay, so as you've seen, you got the first group, the apostles, you got the second group, the 144. And now we've come to the time of the cutting off. Right? The pit has been opened now. Israel is removed. Messiah is cut off. There's the fleeing into the wilderness on the wings of an eagle for the second half of trumpets. And what comes next? The church age that people say we're in now, which we are. Of course, there's a reflection of all of them still around. Okay? And we are in this Laodicean age right now. But when the end of days begin, after the bride has been taken, this year, spring. Because this will begin at true Pentecost 2021. When this begins, this new apostolic revival age, during great war and persecution, it will no longer be this Laodicean type of age. Just like when Christ came and the resurrection and the Holy Ghost came, a new age, a new time began. And it was this cycle of these churches again. So when this tribulation time begins, it's not going to just instantly be the Laodicean time. Are there going to be Laodicean type people? Sure. But is it going to specifically be the Laodicean time during the whole thing? No. It's going to have its specific, particular portion of time. And look at what it says. Just like we were showing you a moment ago. The church of the apostasy. All right? All of what we were just showing from Daniel 12 and being cut off because the people, the prince that shall come, to the falling away, right, of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Except there cometh falling away first, and the man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition. Bang, when the pit is open up. He that was, is not, and shall come up out of the pit, the son of perdition, and go into perdition. It is the son of perdition. And when is he, what's going to happen? He's going to exalt himself, right? And claim to be God, going into the temple of God, which could have only happened after it was built. We've been confused and been taught that Antichrist is Satan. Well, in a way, right? Because of this, when he comes out of the grave. But you see, it's a confusion because there are two portions of time. And what's been so confusing is people have seen these differences and said the church can't be right in the way it is because look at all these differences. Something's afoot here, something's missing. It's the keys that we've been given here in this ministry, who the Gospels are speaking to in the 14 years. You following? Now listen to this. In 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, we see this really interesting piece that follows it after he goes showing himself that he is God. In 2 Thessalonians 2 verse 5, remember ye not that when I was yet with you, I told you these things, and now you know what withholdeth, that he might be revealed in his time. For the mystery of iniquity does already work. See, it's already the Laodicean time. It's always parts of these churches, all right? But they will have their greater play in their time. Only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. Who do you think this is? People for the longest time, because they think it's part of the beginning of tribulation with this falling away and this son of perdition, not realizing where it really applies. So if I just showed you that this is when the 3.5 years of Israel's king, when his removal, when his cutting off comes, then who do you think he is that lets until he be taken out of the way is? Do you follow? This is the Messiah. This is the Son of Man. This is the Lord who must be taken out of the way before that wicked one can be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. When is he going to destroy him with the brightness of his coming? At the end of the 6th trumpet, beginning of the 7th, when the 13 years are over. Remember that final 2.5 years. And he's going to fulfill that final year himself. That is when he's coming, at the brightness of his coming, like we read in Matthew. So he who lets must be taken out of the way. He who lets, who must be taken out of the way, is Messiah, who was there on heavenly Mount Zion, rebuilding, watching over the rebuilding of the city and the streets and the temple. When it's completed and all this happens, Satan, now having lost his battle with Michael, is cast down. The pit is open, and there now, Jesus, them being cut off, he will now go into the temple, proclaiming himself to be God. So who is it that had to be cut off or had to be removed? It was the Lord. It was the Lord. And what period of time does this represent in relation to Laodicea? This was the Lord in the time of Israel's king. Then what about the period of Judah's kings? This is crazy, because if Judah's kings and the relation to this period of Judah and the kings of Judah, if this was Messiah and this is Judah's, and it's related to the apostasy when the son of perdition shall rise up and proclaim himself God in the kingdom of in the temple of God, then Judah's king is who? Satan? The devil? They need to be saved from this guy, right? You got to remember the craziness that's going to go on during this time. Do you want to know what the evidence of this is? Listen to this. John chapter 8, starting in verse 41. This is Jesus talking to them. You do the deeds of your father. Then said he unto them, we be not born of fornication. We have one Father, even God. Jesus said unto them, if God were your Father, you would love me. For I proceeded forth and came from God, neither came I of myself, but he sent me. Why do you not understand my speech? Even because you cannot hear my word. Here it is. John 8, verse 44. You are of your father, the devil, and the lust of your father you will do. And he was a murderer from the beginning and abode not in truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of lies. Who was he speaking to? The Pharisees, the Sadducees. He was speaking to the Jews. And he's telling them, you are of your father, the devil. And when is the devil's specific time? Laodicea, at the time of the apostasy, when Jesus is cut off, because the people of the prince that shall come and the pit having been opened, is historically a reflection of the period of Judah's kings. Isn't that incredible? I showed you the book, or the tribulation years in the revelation of the churches with who they're speaking to based on the wording given to each group. Saith the Lord, amen. The faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation. You see, why did he use this? The beginning, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of creation. Because he was the faithful and true witness. Their beginning is the beginning of the father of lies. It's all revealed in these tiny little words, guys. All these little pieces here and there. Look at this. Let's finish with this. Revelation chapter 3. Let's go verse 21. To him that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. What on earth do you think the possibility of the reasoning is that we have this sitting in my throne and my Father's throne being given to us here in Laodicea? You got it. Because the temple will have been built and Satan will then come down, and this time of the Laodicean time frame is when Satan will come and take over that throne in relation to Laodicea. It is the reason we are given my throne and the throne, or throne being given twice in relation to this period of Laodicea. It's amazing stuff. You want to see even who that relates to be able to get thrones, and that this group will be able to sit in the throne with the Lord? Well, of course, we know there's still going to be some saved in Judah's portion, right? They're not all of their father, the devil. Some will turn, some will repent. That's the purpose. That's what the stories of the churches are telling us. Okay? But some are going to get to sit in what? The throne of glory with the Father. It's in Matthew. Listen to what it says. Verily I say unto you, that you which followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, You shall also sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. They're going to receive thrones to sit upon and judge the 12 tribes of Israel. And they have been witness and followed him in what? In his regeneration. Oh my goodness. It's his rebirth. Some of you guys will really love that one. Some of you won't. So who is this group here in Matthew that's related to the 12 tribes as the heads of the 12 tribes that will get to sit on thrones? It's the same. It's the other group we were telling you about here. The representation of the 12 gates. So the foundation was laid during seals. The walls were built during trumpets. And the 12 gates will be the way through which everybody will enter in during the millennial reign to come and to worship the Lord. And it's by who? The 12 tribes. It's the reason we find it in Matthew. And so if Messiah was cut off here, and Satan and his guys have 2.5 years, which is Daniel chapter 12, times and a half. It's missing an and in between. It's 2.5 years. So the Laodicean time is going to come to an end. At the end of the 6th trumpet, beginning of the 7th trumpet, it is over. And what will they have been witness to? What will they have been witness to? The rebirth of the Messianic age, the rebirth of Christ and the end of the end, the millennial reign. No more Satan, no more. He is bound for now the 1,000 years. And what happens? Now you can finish Zechariah. It's Zechariah chapter 14. The Lord has come feet down on the Mount of Olives. He's going to destroy all those that came against Jerusalem and against his people. And they're going to be wiped out in that final battle before Satan and the end of the millennial reign. And God will just, boom, speak and it's all over. Guys, that is the revelation. That is the revelation of the 7 churches in the end of days. And believe me, I could have brought in so many other pieces of information and the feeding in the wilderness. You see, even this portion in Philadelphia, this is going to be a time of removal when they're also taken again into the wilderness, right? This is the church's time. Okay, this is the church, Mark's time. This portion is Matthew's time. Okay, these guys, they'll get to fly on the wings of an eagle. Okay, for the time, end times, and half a time. The second half of trumpets. These guys, they're going to need that manna and that protection while they're in the wilderness, right? This is the church age right here. This is the final 7 years of the church age. All in order, brothers and sisters. That's what you come to realize in this ministry. Every time there's revelation, every time it's built and built and built upon the rest and built upon the rest and built upon the rest, continuously building from September 8th, 2017, when I realized that revelation started coming, when I knew something had changed in my understanding. I just pursued it and pursued it and pursued it and pursued it and pursued it. And here we are 3.5 years later, revelation after revelation after revelation, the Spirit of the Lord guiding us and leading us in the revelation of the understanding. Every time something major in revelation, even the small things actually, but whenever these major ones break open and are revealed to us, they always fall in line with all of the other revelations that have been already brought forward. And then we find these little nuggets along the way, a little piece here and a little piece there and another piece here. A strange word that seems like a regular word, and really the definition is something totally different. And where it applies and where it's talking about is in exactly the same place where the understanding was revealed. This is amazing stuff, brothers and sisters. This is a mystery of the end of days that has been wondered at for centuries. We've been so privileged, so blessed for such a time as this I can't wait to find out what all of this purpose is for. I can't wait to see how the Lord is going to use this. How people will have downloaded these videos, downloaded the playlist, printed off those that are the study notes that they can print off all over the earth. So that anybody who comes across it, maybe you got USB or jump drives. Maybe you've downloaded them on your phone or on your laptops and left notes for people to go and seek them. I can't wait to see how all of this will be used for the time of the end. We are a part of something so special, brothers and sisters. So special. I don't understand what it is yet, but I can guarantee you with every fiber of my being that it is extremely special. And it was literally what Daniel was told, that close and seal up the books until the time of the end. This is what's been happening in this ministry for 3.5 years. I love you guys. I pray for you. I pray for your families. And I'm so looking forward to meeting you guys. You know, I'll end it with one simple thing. I'm going to do something else with this, but I want to leave you guys with one simple thing. So simple. So that as you feel maybe burdened or weighed down over the things going on in life right now, over maybe another lockdown and being cooped up in your house, know this, that a day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day. And Paul, I believe it's Paul in 2 Peter tells us, or I guess it'd be Peter, tells us, brethren, I would not have you be ignorant of this one thing. Now, why do I bring that up? Because we've shown that in fact Christ was crucified and did resurrect at the Passover time and unleavened bread of 33 AD. 2,000 years, or after 2,000 years, is the end of 2033. Take all of 2021 that will begin at this time frame, all right? Maybe even more so for Pentecost, okay? As late as Pentecost, which is still spring, and go spring of 21 to spring of 22. That's 1 year. 22 to 23, 23 to 24, 24 to 25, 25 to 26, 26 to 27, 27 into 28. That's the end of 7 years. 28 into 29, 29 into 30, 30 into 31, 31 into 32, 32 into 33, 33 into 34. What's that? The end of 13 years. The end on a Gregorian calendar of 13 years is right before that spring of 2034. That is the end of 2,000 years. You get it? Messiah returns, feet down, on the Mount of Olives after 13 years, and will fulfill the final year of trumpets, just like Revelation chapter 9, the 7th trumpet says now everything is his. Just like Revelation chapter 10 tells us that at the start of the sound of the 7th trumpet, everything shall be finished. Daniel chapter 9, when he renews that covenant in the final year, it equals 13 years, brothers and sisters. And he's going to return after 2,000 years, or after 6,000 total. From the fall of Adam to the death and resurrection of Christ was 4,000. from the death and resurrection of Christ to 2033, which is the end of 2,000 years, which will be around the spring of 34 before it really turns to 34. It will have been 2 more thousand years for a total of 6,000. Do you understand what I'm saying? For encouragement. There is literally, from this spring, 13 years remaining. This is why I am so confident in telling you, in all of these revelations that have been given, there is no other time left. This is it. So take comfort, be encouraged, and be strengthened. I know it's not always easy. Believe me. I've been dealing with this for 3.5 years, and the emotional wreck that I am. In particular, the last week or two, I'm a mess. That's why it's like 4.5 days from this video. We're here. Encourage each other, strengthen each other. All right? Come and join the forum. Go to our website, ministryrevealed.com. Join the forum. All right? You can go to our Facebook, our Twitter. You can help support the ministry as well. But know and understand. Take comfort. Yes, we still have to pay bills. Yes, work still has to be done. But take comfort and know we are here. I love you. God bless you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.